Hey, guys. 13 tackles.
Oh, damn.
1 sack.
Oh.
We got just great guys around me and getting to go out there and play inside linebacker, outside linebacker, on the edge, line up in the B gap, put me all over it. It just makes it fun. And when you're having fun out there, that's typically when plays are made. So,
let me paint the picture here. The Atlanta Falcons, who started this season with more question marks than a late-night infomercial, come out against the Dallas Cowboys and completely dictate the pace of play. They jump out of the gates and never look back, securing a 27-21 win and moving to a respectable 6-3 on the year. And let's be clear, this wasn't just the offense or defense showing up. This was a complete performance, a three-phase takeover, if you will. Arnold Ebiketie recorded his first sack of the season in the first quarter of Sunday's win. On the next play, Falcons defensive lineman Grady Jarrett brought Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott down for a second time. It was the first time the team has had at least 2 sacks in a game this season. The team ended up with 3 total sacks and showed better pressure for 4 quarters than we've seen all year. It's a positive step for Jimmy Lake's defense heading into the second half of the season. Cousins completed 14 of his first 16 pass attempts, throwing for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns before halftime. The reigning NFC Offensive Player of the Week completed 19 of 24 passes for 222 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in Sunday's win. Cousins finished with a passer rating of 144.8. The veteran has played at an MVP level over the last few weeks. Cousins has passed for 2,328 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions this season. And let's talk about Kirk Cousins for a moment. The man goes 14 of 16 to start, ends the day with a 144.8 passer rating, and racks up 3 touchdowns. MVP level? Absolutely. We're talking about a quarterback who, over the last few weeks, has been nothing short of sensational. He's now at 2,328 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 7 picks on the year. And if the Falcons keep riding this hot streak, winning 5 of their last 6 games, the playoffs aren't just a dream anymore. They're a realistic expectation. Bijan Robinson and Darnell Mooney electrified the crowd with a dynamic display of offense. Robinson carried the ball 19 times for 86 hard-earned yards and added 7 receptions for another 59 yards, showcasing his versatility. Mooney, thriving since his move from Chicago, led the Falcons with 88 receiving yards and a touchdown on 5 catches. A critical performance, especially with Drake London sidelined for half the game. Robinson was a force to be reckoned with, breaking tackles on multiple runs, powering through defenders for key gains, and picking up first downs. At one point, he dragged tacklers for a tough 7 yards, then followed up by cutting back inside for another 7 and a fresh set of downs. Another powerful run added 12 more yards to his tally, though a jet sweep with some trickery didn't go as planned and lost a yard. Cousins, however, was unfazed. He found McLeod for a touchdown after a precise route, showing the Falcons' offensive depth. Starting inside their own 5-yard line, Tyler Algier took a couple of steady runs to push the team out of dangerous territory. Cousins then hit Mooney, who slipped past a defender and stretched the drive. Robinson added a few more yards, and Cousins took a shot deep to Mooney, but it just slipped through his fingers. They punted, with Dallas taking over near the 40-yard line. Sunday's game between the Falcons and Cowboys was as brutal as it was competitive, with injuries impacting both teams' top playmakers. Atlanta's Drake London, who was having a stellar day, snagged his 6th touchdown of the season on a perfectly executed fade route. But as he came down, he landed hard on his right hip, and after a few minutes, he was spotted on the sideline, heading into the blue tent and eventually hitting the stationary bike. Though he initially looked fine, the adrenaline wore off, and he was ruled questionable to return. Atlanta's defense took an equally big hit, with Grady Jarrett ruled out due to an Achilles injury after a dominant start. Jarrett's presence was missed immediately, especially since he'd already registered the Falcons' 2nd sack of the game, putting early pressure on Prescott. And speaking of Prescott, the Cowboys lost their quarterback in the second half to a hamstring injury. Prescott's exit disrupted Dallas's offensive rhythm, adding to the game's dramatic twists. These injuries left both sidelines hoping the damage isn't long-term, especially given how well London and Jarrett were performing before they had to step off the field. Look, there's no exact timetable on when Drake London's coming back, but let's be real here. His presence isn't just important, it's transformative for the Falcons' offense. Sure, Darnell Mooney has been a revelation, putting up numbers and showing he can be that guy, but he's not Drake London. We're talking about one of the best red zone weapons in the league, a guy who brings that just throw it up and let me go get it type of swagger. London's ability to dominate the jump ball near the goal line, that's not something you can just replace. Without him, Atlanta's offense loses a layer of unpredictability, a layer of go up and grab it that keeps defenses on edge. So, yeah, getting him back as soon as possible isn't just a want, it's a need if this team is serious about pushing for a playoff run. Robinson carried the ball 19 times for 86 yards and caught all 7 of his targets for 59 yards in Sunday's 27-21 victory over the Cowboys. His 145 scrimmage yards marked a season high, and the second-year RB has now surpassed 100 scrimmage yards in 4 consecutive games, as well as in 6 of 9 games this season. His day could have been even bigger if not for Tyler Allgeier's 6-yard touchdown run early in the fourth quarter, which came after Robinson did the bulk of the work to get Atlanta into the red zone. Robinson will look to keep up the momentum in Week 10 against a struggling Saints defense, which recently allowed 2 rushing touchdowns to Chuba Hubbard in a loss to the Panthers. On Atlanta's first scoring drive, Robinson accounted for 29 yards on 4 carries, averaging 7.25 yards per carry. His contributions made up 57% of the touches and 37% of the 78-yard drive, showcasing his ability to break down the Cowboys' defense. Beyond the stats, Robinson displayed exceptional strength and balance, powering through tackles and staying upright even under heavy contact. His vision and resilience were on full display throughout the game. This win demonstrates Atlanta's ability to maintain momentum. Coming off a victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that put them in the division lead, Atlanta capitalized on this opportunity to build consistency, even after a previous home loss to the Seahawks following a 3-0 run against NFC South opponents. While the game wasn't flawless, the Falcons fumbled 3 times, losing 1. Atlanta quickly recovered from their mistakes, proving they can respond under pressure. Despite securing the win, the Falcons won't feel entirely good about Sunday's result until they get an update on Grady Jarrett's Achilles strain suffered in the second half. This was a huge blow, especially considering Jarrett was having one of his best performances of the season. In just over a half, he logged 2 tackles, a sack, a quarterback hit, and a tackle for loss, making his presence felt on nearly every play. The injury occurred just as he appeared to be fully in control, pressuring the Dallas offense. According to a team official, the injury is currently being described as a strain, though the full extent remains uncertain. It's particularly tough to see Jarrett sidelined, given his history. He was forced to miss the rest of last season due to a knee injury sustained in Week 8, and this game marked his return to form. Despite the setback, Jarrett stayed on the Atlanta sideline, standing without any visible sign of distress, which is a positive indicator. He shared with The Athletic that he felt all right, but would be undergoing an MRI to confirm the damage. Looking forward, the Falcons have a tough matchup on the horizon as they face the New Orleans Saints in Week 10. Jarrett's absence could be a big factor, especially when it comes to defending the run. With Alvin Kamara coming off strong performances, Atlanta's defense will need to focus on containing him to prevent big gains on the ground. This game could also come down to the defensive line's ability to maintain pressure, even without one of its core players in Jarrett. The Saints have been known to rely on the deep pass, so Atlanta's defense will need to stay alert and disciplined to counter their air attack. Falcons fans, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think Atlanta needs to do to walk away with a win in New Orleans? It's clear that aside from stopping Kamara, keeping pressure on the quarterback will be essential, especially considering that New Orleans has a tendency to look for those deep shots downfield. Personally, I'm backing the Falcons to pull off the win next week. While some question my decision to place the Falcons so high in my power rankings, yes, I put them at number 1. 3 exclamation mark. Their recent performances are making that choice look pretty smart. Atlanta has been on a roll lately, displaying resilience, depth, and determination. This team is no longer just hanging around. They're putting together a string of victories that have them legitimately looking like contenders. The win over Dallas marks a significant milestone, as it not only strengthens their position in the standings, but also showcases the team's growing consistency. Remember, the Falcons recently took down Tampa Bay, which gave them an important divisional lead. Let me know what you think in the comments. Comment and subscribe.